Welcome to the channel. Tonight, prepare to enter a dark and unsettling realm where the line between the real and the unknown begins to blur. These are true stories, pulled from the depths of the internet, that leave you with a feeling of unease that's impossible to ignore. Tales of people who ventured into the deep web and encountered something much more than they could ever have imagined. In each story, you'll feel the weight of the tension, the fear of the inexplicable, and the presence of something that, perhaps, was never meant to be found. But remember, you've been warned. Now, listen closely and feel what these individuals experienced. Let's begin with the first story. My name is Crazy06. I don't usually talk about this, but after seeing people share similar experiences online, I feel like it's time. I've never shared this with anyone before, not even close friends, because it's something I've never been able to fully explain. Looking back, it almost feels like a bad dream, but I know it wasn't. It was all too real. I had always been a curious person, the kind who asks questions others are afraid to ask. It wasn't long before my curiosity led me down a dark rabbit hole, the deep web. It started harmlessly enough. I'd heard stories from people about the weird things they found there, mostly conspiracies or strange videos. But as I got deeper into that world, things began to feel wrong. One night, while scrolling through a forum on a strange website I had come across, I saw a link labeled The Forbidden Room. It didn't have much description other than a vague message: enter if you're looking for answers, but not the ones you want. Something about it intrigued me, so against my better judgment, I clicked. I immediately felt the temperature in my room drop, almost like a chill running through the air. I thought it was just my mind playing tricks on me. After all, it was late, and I hadn't slept much the night before. The screen flickered before a strange symbol appeared, a simple but unsettling design that resembled a distorted human face, surrounded by a circle of what looked like ancient symbols. The moment I saw it, I got a feeling in my gut that I couldn't shake, like something was watching me. But I ignored that instinct. I was too deep into it now. I needed to know more. The site had a chat function, with just a handful of users online. The conversations were strange, cryptic, and mostly incomprehensible. But there was one message that caught my attention. Don't trust the faces you see. They're never what they seem. I was confused. The message had no context, no real explanation, just a warning that didn't make sense. I quickly dismissed it, but then I noticed something else. One of the users was online longer than the others. Their username was just a string of numbers and letters, not something easily recognizable. I clicked on the user's profile, curious about who they were. There were no posts or pictures, just a string of nonsensical symbols. But there was a location listed, a town I didn't recognize. The oddness of it all began to gnaw at me. As I clicked around, trying to find something that could make sense of it all, I heard something from my speakers. A low, almost imperceptible hum at first, but then a voice, just barely audible, yet clear enough that I could make out the words. Stop looking. You're too late. I froze. My heart pounded in my chest. It wasn't just the voice, it was the way it sounded, the tone, like someone was right behind me, whispering directly into my ear. But I was alone. I checked my room, the door, the window. Nothing. The only thing that remained was the unsettling voice still echoing in my mind. After a few minutes, I decided to close the window and go to bed. Maybe I was overreacting. But as I turned off my computer, I noticed something in the reflection of the screen, just behind me. A shadow. I whipped around, but there was nothing there. No one. I walked around the room, checked every corner, but I still couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I brushed it off as paranoia. After all, I was tired, and my mind was playing tricks on me. But that night, I couldn't sleep. My room felt off, like the air was heavier than usual. Every creak of the floorboards sent a shiver down my spine. Every gust of wind outside made my heart race. I remember lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to convince myself that it was just the stress of the day playing with my mind. But that didn't explain the strange noises that kept coming from outside my window. The next day, things only got worse. I tried to forget about the deep web and the strange experience, but there were small things I couldn't ignore. Like how, when I looked in the mirror, I sometimes saw the shadow of something behind me that wasn't mine. Or how my computer would randomly turn on, even though I knew I had powered it off. Each time, the same strange message would appear on the screen: "We know you're still here." I tried to talk to people about it, friends, family, but they all thought I was just stressed. They didn't see what I saw. They didn't hear what I heard. I even considered going to the police, but I knew they wouldn't believe me. Who would? It sounds insane, even to me. Weeks passed, but the feeling of being watched never left. I kept hearing the whispers. They seemed to follow me wherever I went. Sometimes, when I walked into a room, I could feel the temperature drop, like someone had just been there. I began to wonder if I had somehow invited something into my life that I couldn't escape. One night, things escalated. I was sitting at my desk, trying to focus on something else when I noticed the shadow again. This time, it wasn't behind me, it was standing in front of the door, just outside my room. I could see it moving, just barely visible in the dim light, but I couldn't make out any features. It was like a shape, formless, yet somehow solid. And then I heard the whispers again, but this time, they were louder. Clearer. "Come out. It's waiting." I bolted out of my chair, my heart racing. I ran to the door, but when I opened it, there was nothing there. No one. I checked the hallway, but there was only silence. I don't know how long I stood there, but when I finally went back to my room, everything seemed normal again. But I wasn't the same. That feeling of being watched never went away. The whispers never stopped. I tried to go back to the deep web once, hoping for some answers, but when I logged in, I saw something that made my blood run cold. The user I had seen earlier, the one with the strange username, had posted a new message. "Stop looking. You're not welcome here anymore." I haven't accessed the deep web since. I don't know what I stumbled upon that night, but I wish I hadn't. And if you're ever curious, just know that some doors are better left closed. Because once you open them, you can't unsee what's on the other side. I still hear the whispers, every now and then. I think about them often, and I wonder if I've ever truly escaped what I found that night. I haven't been able to shake that feeling of being watched. It's like it's become a part of me now. I'm not sure what I saw, or what I invited into my life, but I'm certain of one thing: it's still out there. And I'm not the only one it's watching. Now, second story. My name is Josh. I've been hesitant to share this, mostly because I'm still not sure what happened to me that night. But after hearing other similar stories, I feel like I should at least try to explain it. if only to make sense of it myself. It all started a few months ago, when I was bored and browsing the internet late at night. I had always heard about the deep web, the dark corners of the internet people spoke about in hushed tones. I knew it was dangerous, but there was something about the forbidden nature of it that drew me in. That curiosity led me to a forum one night, a place where people were sharing their experiences, their findings. At first, it seemed harmless, just a bunch of people talking about strange videos, encrypted files, and odd conspiracies. But one thread caught my attention. It was titled "The Hidden Door." It was posted by someone with a strange username, Loxius_404. The post was a single sentence: "If you find the door, you won't be able to close it." I didn't know why, but that statement unsettled me. I couldn't stop thinking about it. The phrase replayed in my head for days. I kept coming back to that thread, checking for replies. There were only a few, and they were vague, almost as if the other users were too afraid to speak openly about it. Someone mentioned a link. "Don't click it. Once you do, you'll never be the same," someone had written. Naturally, that made me want to click it even more. I waited for a few hours, letting the suspense build. I remember sitting at my desk, the dim glow of my screen casting long shadows across the room. I clicked the link. The screen flickered, almost like it hesitated, before showing a page that looked nothing like anything I had seen before. It was basic, with black background and simple white text. No graphics, no navigation, just a message. "Welcome to the threshold." There was a countdown clock at the bottom, ticking down slowly, steadily. I couldn't take my eyes off it, even though I had a sinking feeling in my stomach. It was like something was drawing me in, and I couldn't look away. The countdown reached 0 and the page refreshed. I don't know what I was expecting. Maybe I thought it would be another weird deep website, maybe some dark, cryptic text or an unsettling image. But instead, the page just showed coordinates. A set of numbers, longitude and latitude. At that point, I felt a wave of dread wash over me. My heart started beating faster. Something in my gut told me to close the browser, to shut everything down. But curiosity won again. I copied the coordinates, opened Google Maps, and pasted them in. The location was unfamiliar to me. It was in the middle of nowhere, in a part of the world I had never heard of, with no nearby towns or landmarks. Just an empty stretch of land. But something about it felt wrong, like a part of me already knew I shouldn't be looking at it. I kept coming back to the coordinates. For days, I checked the map, trying to make sense of it. It was as though I couldn't stop thinking about it. I felt drawn to that place, even though it seemed completely insignificant. It was just an empty patch of land, according to the map, but my mind kept racing. Why was I so obsessed with it? Eventually, I convinced myself it was nothing. Just some deep web trick, trying to get attention. I tried to forget about it, but the sense of dread never fully left me. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was out there, waiting. Watching. A week later, I received an anonymous message. The text was simple: "We saw you." My blood ran cold. I didn't know how they found me, or who they were. I immediately tried to track the message, but it had no identifiable information. It was just a string of random characters. I turned off my computer, but the feeling of being watched persisted. Days went by, and the unease grew. I couldn't sleep, couldn't focus. My dreams were plagued with strange, fragmented images, empty landscapes, distorted faces, and those damn coordinates. One night, I woke up in the middle of a dream, sweating, heart racing. I swear I heard someone whispering my name, though there was no one else in the room. I tried to tell myself it was just stress. But then, things started happening that I couldn't explain. I would wake up to find my computer on. It had been off when I went to bed, yet somehow it would be glowing in the dark. The screen would display the same message, "We saw you." And sometimes, if I stared at the screen long enough, I could see shapes moving in the corners, just shadows, flickering in and out. I started seeing things out of the corner of my eye. People standing at the edges of my vision, just beyond the range of the light. They were always blurry, never quite in focus, but there. Always there. Watching. One evening, I decided to go for a walk to clear my head. I left my house and walked down the street, trying to shake off the paranoia that had been growing in me. But as I walked, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being followed. Every time I turned a corner, I thought I saw someone just behind me, barely visible in the shadows. But when I looked again, there was nothing. I got home and locked all the doors, my heart pounding. Something wasn't right, and I knew it wasn't just in my head. Then, it got worse. I started hearing things. Low whispers in the middle of the night, soft at first, almost like a murmur, but then they grew louder. I could never make out what was being said, just the unmistakable sound of someone, something, talking. At times, I'd hear my name being whispered, just behind me, though I'd be alone. It wasn't until one morning, when I was walking into my kitchen, that I saw it. A face. Just for a split second, it appeared in the reflection of the window. It wasn't anyone I knew. It wasn't even human, not really. It was like a distorted version of a face, blurry, flickering. And then it was gone. But the feeling, that cold, suffocating fear, stayed. I never went back to that site. I don't even know if it's still there, but I'm not going to check. I can't explain what happened, or what I found. But the thing is, I don't think I was supposed to. I opened the door, and now I can't close it. To this day, I still hear the whispers sometimes. And sometimes, when I'm alone in my room, I see shapes moving in the shadows, flickering just beyond my vision. I don't know if they're real, or if it's all in my head, but I know one thing for sure. Whatever I saw that night, it's not gone. It's still here. And it's watching me. Now let's go to the last story. My name is Toddy. I've never told anyone this story, not in full, at least. Every time I try, the words just seem to die in my throat, like the memory is too heavy to speak aloud. But after reading other accounts of people who've been through similar experiences, I feel like I need to share this, even if it sounds insane. It's been months since it happened, and I still don't know what to make of it. It all started on a night just like any other. I was up late, scrolling through my usual online haunts. You know the kind of sites, the dark forums where people discuss everything from bizarre conspiracy theories to things that are better left unknown. I stumbled across a thread with a cryptic title, "There's Something Following You." I clicked on it, of course. It was full of eerie comments, people sharing odd experiences that seemed too real to be made up. But one post stood out, a single line that made my heart skip. It was from someone named Echo_47, and it simply said, "If you're reading this, it's already too late." I didn't know why, but that sentence triggered something in me. I felt an overwhelming urge to keep reading. The post went on to describe an experience that sounded familiar, like something I had seen in my dreams before but had never shared with anyone. The user wrote about hearing whispers in the dark, the feeling of being watched at all times, and, what struck me the most, the way certain rooms in their house would feel wrong. I started thinking about my own home. There was this one room in the attic that always unsettled me. I could never explain why, but whenever I went up there, I'd feel a tightness in my chest, like something was just waiting for me to leave. I told myself it was just my imagination, a relic of childhood fear, but as I read Echo_47's post, I started to wonder if it was more than that. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about the post. I kept replaying it in my head as I lay in bed, the usual stillness of the night feeling unnaturally heavy. Around 2 a.m., I heard something that made my blood run cold. A faint knocking sound from the attic. It was soft at first, barely noticeable, but as it grew louder, I knew it couldn't be a coincidence. I tried to brush it off, telling myself it was just the house settling, but the more I tried to ignore it, the more intense it became. The knock sounded deliberate, like someone, or something, was trying to get my attention. I grabbed a flashlight and walked up to the attic, my heart thumping in my chest. The air felt colder the closer I got to the door, and the moment I opened it, the temperature seemed to drop even further. My breath misted in the cold, and I could barely make out the shadowed corners of the room. Nothing was there. At least, not visibly. But the atmosphere in that room was thick, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. I felt it then. The oppressive presence. The weight of something unseen. I rushed out, slamming the door behind me, my mind racing. I told myself I was just tired, that I was imagining things. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. Something had changed in that room. The following days were the worst. It wasn't just the knocking anymore. It was the feeling of being watched, even when I was in broad daylight. My every movement felt tracked, observed by eyes I couldn't see. I couldn't shake the sensation that I was no longer alone in my own home. I started to notice small things that weren't right. My reflection in mirrors looked off, like there was something just slightly wrong with the angle of my face. I'd be sitting at my desk, and the screen would flicker, showing brief, distorted images that I couldn't explain. I'd get up to investigate, but the moment I turned my back, I'd hear something moving, soft footsteps behind me, slow and deliberate. I didn't want to believe it, but as the days went on, it became harder to deny. I wasn't just paranoid. Something was there, something that was following me. I remember one night, a week after it started, I was alone in my room, trying to drown out the fear with music. It was around midnight when I felt it again, the creeping sensation that I wasn't the only one in the room. I pulled my earbuds out and listened. Nothing. But then, from the corner of the room, I heard a soft whisper. I couldn't make out the words, but it was unmistakably there, a voice that seemed to come from nowhere. I turned, and that's when I saw it. For just a brief moment, a shadow moved across the wall. It wasn't a person, at least not in any sense I could recognize. It was more like a distortion, an absence of light, stretching unnaturally across the surface, reaching toward me. I froze. It lingered for what felt like hours, but in reality, it was only a few seconds. Then, as quickly as it had appeared, it was gone. The room felt empty again, but the weight of what I had just seen pressed on me like a physical thing. I didn't sleep that night. The next few days blurred together. I became obsessed with trying to understand what was happening to me, trying to find some sort of explanation. I combed through online forums, looking for anyone who had experienced the same thing. That's when I came across a post, buried deep in a thread I hadn't seen before. The user was someone named Faded_Walker, and their message read, "I know where you are. The thing that follows you, it's not from here." I clicked on their profile, but it was empty. No posts, no details. Just the username, a faded image, and that message. My heart raced. How could they know what was happening to me? I began to lose track of time, my days consumed by the paranoia and fear. I avoided the attic, but the whispers still came, and the feeling of being watched never left me. I could hear the creaking of floors when I wasn't near them, the sound of someone, moving around when I wasn't looking. One night, desperate for answers, I went back to the attic. I had to face whatever this was, once and for all. I grabbed a flashlight, the beam trembling in my hand, and opened the door. The temperature immediately dropped. My breath fogged in the air. And that's when I saw it. A figure, standing at the far corner of the room, just beyond the edge of the light. It was tall, almost unnaturally so. It had no clear features, just a silhouette, but I could feel its presence, its eyes on me. I don't know how long I stood there, frozen in place, but eventually, the figure moved toward me. Not with footsteps, but with a gliding motion, like it was sliding through the air. It came closer, and the air grew thicker, harder to breathe. The whispers came again, clearer this time, but not in any language I recognized. I don't know what happened after that. I remember running out of the attic, slamming the door, and not looking back. It's been weeks, but the feeling hasn't left me. Sometimes I still hear those whispers, like they're following me, echoing through my house, and when I look in mirrors or windows, I swear I can see a shadow lurking just behind me, waiting. I don't know what that thing was, or what it wanted, but I know one thing for sure, it's still here. And it's not going anywhere. Thank you for watching. I hope these stories left you with a sense of unease, as they did for those who lived them. The deep web, the shadows, and the things lurking in places we're not meant to see, they're real for those who search for them. If you found yourself intrigued, or perhaps even frightened, remember, some doors, once opened, can never truly be closed. If you want to hear more, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Stay safe, and always be cautious about the things you choose to uncover. Until next time.